Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here with the third card review for the classes for the new expansion coming out in a couple weeks, Showdown in the Badlands. So we're going to, since this is Shaman, there's some very impactful big cards. Let's just go, this time normally go in ascending order. Let's go in descending order by cost so we can talk about these big cards first. So first off, let's talk about Walking Mountain. 9 mana, 4/16. Elemental with Overload 2, so an 11 mana card effectively, but it has Rush, Lifesteal, and Mega Wind Fury. Basically, this is 2 Walking Fountains for the price of like, what, 1.3, 1.4? So, yeah. I mean, the one risk is that there might not be enough on board for this to actually kill to get all of its value immediately. It still doesn't trade well into like an 8/8, for example, so you know it's not always going to be the best thing on board. But I mean, let's be real, most of the time this is just gonna basically heal you to full anytime you play it. And the other thing is like, because it's 9 mana Overload 2, like you can't chain these, right? Anytime you play this, you cannot play another one the next turn, basically. It's possible technically, but like, you know, that's something to worry about. But the other thing is that, oh, by the way, if you're wondering, yeah, this is the first time they've ever printed a card that actually, a minion that actually has Mega Wind Fury on it. That actually has the thing on it. Mega Wind Fury also, I should mention, if you're wondering, it means it can attack 4 times per turn. Not everyone knows that either. Having said that, for all the downsides, on the upsides, yeah, it heals you to full basically. It clears any wide board, and if it doesn't die, you win the game, basically, because your opponent will be dead. So, yeah, there are also going to be ways to tutor elementals in Shaman, which we can talk about, also ways to randomly generate them in other classes, but also in Shaman, and ways to, yeah, so, yeah, this is going to be a thing that exists. It should be a very good card, because, yeah, Walking Fountain is a really good card, and this is, I think it's safe to say this is a much better card than Walking Fountain is. So, yeah, it is an epic, so you shouldn't see it drafted, which just means you'll probably see it discovered just as often. Next up, talking about cards you'll also see discovered often. Scar the Catastrophe. 7 mana 7/7 Elemental Battle Cry. Deal 1 damage to all minions, improved by each turn in a row you've played an elemental. So, yeah, you can also evolve into Walking Mountain, true. Yeah, so this is something that it's interesting. It's gonna be, it would be pretty hard. I mean, if you knew you had this, obviously you would do your best to pull this off. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to, like, keep this active forever, but I mean, you only need like 3 or 4, right, to do this, and it's all enemies that goes phase. So I mean, if you're playing this and it's dealing like 4 or 5 AoE, you're probably winning. So it's because it's just really strong then. So because it's specifically like menacing Nimbus, it's, you know, Nimbus will give you 2 turns of activation by itself, so it's very strong. Obviously, so as far as drafting this in Arena, assuming you have Nimbus, like if you don't have Nimbus, it might be a little tricky to actually, you know, have enough elementals to really utilize it properly. But a lot of the time you'll be able to, so it's pretty strong. Next up, we have Giant Tumbleweed. You'll see why I started with the big cards again. 7 mana nature spell. Deal 6 damage to all minions. Summon a 6/6 Tumbleweed. So you know, like Harmonic Pop and Dissonant Pop, right? This is like, I don't know which one I want. Let's just get the upside of both of them. So yeah, it's literally like both ends of the, both positive ends of the Harmonic Pop. It's only 1 more mana to get that. So it's just ridiculously efficient. And what else is there to say? Yeah, it's just, it's one of the best board clears ever made. So yeah, it's strong enough nowadays. It's like, it used to be, you'd be like, hey, maybe you don't pick in an aggro decks, but nowadays it's like you get board cleared like constantly no matter what anyway, so you draft this every time. It doesn't matter what your deck is, you just pick it, right? And everyone's just going to be playing. This is just going to, like, you see what they're doing with Arena, right? This will destroy Arena, is the comment in chat. Yeah, it's like, they want Arena as well. It's going to be a place where it's just, you're getting board cleared back and forth, and it's just what it is, you know? Whoever has more board clear wins. Next up, we have Living Prairie. 5 mana, 5/4 elemental, battle cry. If you played an elemental last turn, summon 2 3/3 cows with rush, and they are startled cows, so that's very important to note as well. Yeah, I mean, so again, like, usually it might be rotation dependent a little bit, but Nimbus is in core at least for the time being, and yeah, it's just usually not that hard to have played an elemental last turn in Shaman. It's not nothing, but it's not very hard to have done. And if you pull that off, this is also just ridiculously efficient. It's not quite as efficient as like a giant Tumbleweed, but it's still pretty darn efficient. So it's a very, very powerful card. And yeah, you do need to be able to trigger the condition, but that just shouldn't be that hard to do. So next up, Dr. Holiday. 5 mana, 4/5 minion, legendary. Battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, equip the Staff of the 9 Frogs. What is the Staff of the 9 Frogs, you might ask? It's probably the best weapon ever made. Maybe not, I don't know. It's a very slow weapon, but it's like it does win the game if you just give it enough time. So this is a 5 mana 2/9. You guys can't see it here. It's a 2/9 weapon where it's after your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 frog with taunt. Each frog is bigger than the last. It's like literally this one card makes you a jade deck, basically. It gives you like all of the jades over 9 turns, but you would only have to spend, like, you only have to pay for it once. So weapon removal just got really, really good. One thing to note is that I think the minion that gives you your hero Wind Fury is still in standard, right? So we don't know if that'll be in Arena. But that would be a very good combo with this as well. Realistically, I mean, the turn you play this, if you think about it, it's a 4/5, a 2, it's a 4/5 2 damage and a 1/1. That's already fine. Like, that's a fine turn 5 play. It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. And then it's all uphill from there, right? If you play this and don't die within like 2 or 3 turns, you'll win. The one thing your opponent could do, theoretically, other than removing the weapon, is just playing big taunt, so you can't actually, get through it, right? But I mean, you can just hex it or whatever. So it's yeah, very, very good. Just a way to have an essentially unbeatable win condition unless your weapon gets removed. I should mention though, I mean, it's Highlander, so it's a little tricky to do in Arena. The one thing is that compared to some Highlander cards, if you do this really late, it's not necessarily gonna be that good. So you wouldn't want to draft a non-Highlander deck and just hope that eventually this will work. You really would want to keep your deck actually Highlander, right? That would be the one thing to note with that. But anyway, Minecart Cruiser, 3 mana 4/5 elemental with rush and overload 2, so it's effectively more like a 5 mana 4/5. Battle cry. If you played an elemental last turn, don't overload. I say that. Okay, well, it's not really a 4 mana 5. It's not really a 5 mana 4/5. It's really a 3 mana 4/5. Yeah, so this card's it's a little weak if you don't have an elemental last turn, right? Because effectively a 5 mana 4/5 rush really isn't. It's not like it's that bad, but it's not really at modern power level standards. But it's not that hard to have played an elemental last turn. You just play Nimbus on 2, and then you just have a 4/5 rush on turn 3, right? That's the big thing. I don't know if there's that many other elementals you can play on turn 2, though. It might be... Are there a billion 2-mana elementals? There might be some new ones in this set, actually. I don't remember exactly. We'll see that in a second. But yeah, it's pretty likely that you'll be able to do this. If you're on coin, you can play a 1-mana elemental, too. So, and then just play this, so... It's not going to be too hard. You might just not be able to quite get it always on turn 3, but if you're getting this at all, it's going to be pretty good. So, oh yeah, God. Yeah, this also works with Synthesize. Synthesize just generates... Oh man, that's... Oh God, yeah. So Mage just got buffed too. Great. Next up we have Dehydrate. 3 mana lifesteal spell. Deal 4 damage to a minion, and with quick draw this costs 1. So, I mean, this is 1 mana deal 4. The only time this isn't going to be 1 mana deal 4 is if it's in your opening hand or you draw it, like, on turn 1, right? Like, other than that, like, you're probably going to... Unless you just happen to draw it on a turn, your opponent just decided to not play a board. Like, this, you'll just throw this out pretty much always whenever you can, right? I guess unless you really have a specific card play you need to do. But yeah, so it's just it's a really efficient card. Even if it's, I mean, even if it's what was that card called? Yeah, there was a card that was literally 3 mana deal 4 lifesteal, and it was a shaman spell. And this is just the same card but with quick draw attached to it. Yeah, so it's just a very efficient card. Even if you have to pay full price for it, it's still fine, right? Like it's still decently good. It was a 4 mana card originally, the card we're talking about that it's a reprint of, but they buffed it to 3 like a year ago, I think. Like it was like last year's course that they buffed it to 3. Anyway, the point is this is a really good card. You'll draft it a lot. Yeah, Tidal Surge, I think, yeah. Next up, we have Trusty Companion. 2 mana epic spell. Give a minion +2/+3. If it has a minion type, draw 1 of that type. I mean, the most obvious thing, you can obviously, there's some upside that you can use this with anything, but the obvious thing you're going to do with this is you're going to use this on elementals. There was like a previous card, right, where it was like +2/+2 you had to do on an elemental and then you get an elemental. This is like, you can do it on anything, and theoretically, the problem is if you put this on a beast or something, you might not have another beast, so it might not work. But you're pretty much, most of the time, you're just going to do this on elementals, and then you're going to draw the Walking Mountain out of your deck or whatever, right? So it's efficient even if you just use it. Like a 2 mana 2/3 buff, that's probably not at modern power level standards, but like it's still fine, right? Even if you don't get this energy, but you're usually just going to play this on elementals and be pretty happy. So very good card. It's an epic though, you won't see it that much, although because it's a spell and it's in Shaman, you'll probably see it you'll discover it all the time probably, and you'll be really happy to do it that way. Because yeah, it is essentially just a really, really good hand of a doll, right? Next up we have Cactus Cutter, not a Murloc, or not an elemental. 2 mana 2/2, Murloc, Battle Cry. Draw a spell. If you cast it this turn, gain +1/+2 and taunt. So, I mean, the thing about that is that obviously, sometimes you'll just play this on turn 2, and then you're not getting the upside, but it's fine. Like 2 mana 2/2, draw a spell in a class with really good spells like Shaman that kind of wants draw. Like, you would take that card. If that was a card, you would just take it pretty reasonably high. It's just even more upside that pretty often you might have a Lightning Storm in your deck. You might play this on turn 5. You might just win automatically. Because a 3/4 taunt will just help you survive even more. Yeah. Although not really automatically, because then your opponent just starts, you and your opponent just starts playing giant tumbleweeds back and forth because it's modern arena. But yeah, it's just a really, really effective card. So it's also upside. That is true. You can, if you have something like dehydrate, you can just shoot it immediately and get the upside, assuming you have any mana at all. It's just a very good card. You'll draft this a lot for sure. The thing that would be interesting is, would you take this over a Menacing Nimbus? That would be the question. I guess that would depend on how much elemental synergy you had, right? That would really be what depends there, and how good your spells are, I guess. And last up for Shaman, we have Amphibious Elixir. 2 mana, nature spell. Restore 5 health, discover a spell. So 2 mana restore 5 health would be, you know, terrible card nowadays, really, to be honest. But like, obviously Discover is really good, so that probably makes this automatically a really good card. Because it's Discovers. It is like, it would still be like considered one of the weaker discovers in the game, but that's like saying, oh, that's like one of the weaker forms of, you know, new grade technology, right? So yeah, you can choose what you want to heal. Yeah, you'll be happy to take it. Obviously, you'd value it higher if you're a deck that wants to stay alive, but just because it's Discover, you'll take it. I can't even say like you wouldn't want to take a bunch of them, because the thing is that I think you would actually take a bunch of them too, because I mean, every time you play this, you're going to have a shot at hitting like Giant Tumbleweed or something. And you can just keep healing yourself, and then you just keep playing Tumbleweeds and Lightning Storms and stuff. And then eventually you get to a Walking Mountain. Like, this whole package, I think, works in Arena. You're just going to have this, like, this unkillable Shaman deck that just keeps healing. You look dead, and then you just keep healing and keep board clearing. And then you keep ramping elemental synergy. I think that whole package would just work, and this would be part of it. With that, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Appreciate everyone for hanging out. The next time, we'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, it's like Tidal Wave Shaman 2.0 basically. Bye bye.